A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Of course, I'm Carlos Brown. Coming up on today's show, the guest menu looks exactly like this. Joining me in hour number one will be the Senior Associate Commissioner of Administration with the Southwestern Athletic Conference, none other than Dr. Jason Cable. He'll join me in a few minutes. Following Dr. Jason Cable will be Dr. Travian Scott. He'll join me on today's Carlos Brown Show. He's a Deputy Athletic Director and Chief Operating Officer, COO, of the Southern University Jaguars. And then in hour number two, regular guest, Coach Van Pettaway, and just added, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network joins me as well. So plenty of guests. Dr. Jason Cable, Dr. Travian Scott. Wow. And then, of course, we will check on Dr. Michael Prince. So the doctors are in the house this week. Here's what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show. The SWAC announced the postponement of all scheduled fall contests along with SWAC championships due to concerns related to COVID-19 global pandemic. And if you've been sort of like Rip Van Winkle, been asleep for 100 years and you just have awakened, there is still a pandemic going on, and it is rearing. I mean, it's spiking the cases in the geographical blueprint of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. So, as always, be safe and continue to practice safety. Your life can depend on it. So, coming up, Dr. Jason Cable, Dr. Travian Scott, Coach Van Pettaway, and Charles Edmond. The bulk of today's show, of course, will be SWAC news related. So we will also get your participation. You can do it in a couple of ways. I have the Carlos Brown Show Facebook Messenger page is open. You can send a question, a comment. When we're interviewing, talking with the guests. Also, the Carlos Brown Show at gmail.com. You can email me. And then also across all social media outlets, platforms. Just go to the Carlos Brown Show. Look it up to give you all of the information. Good morning, Dr. Prince. How are you doing, sir?
I'm a little warm this morning, man, but I'm going to be okay, though. How are you?
Well, I'm not warm. I'm comfortable. But I perhaps understand why you are a little warm. I guess it would be considering some information that came out yesterday, some this morning, as far as Prairie View and Panthers.
Perhaps.
And it is that topic alone could take up at least an hour minimum.
No doubt.
Of a show. But I'm sure on your show you will, get into it very intensely.
Oh, just a tad bit. I might have to extend it a day or two extra, man. It's just that numbing to me and almost makes me want to flip on the entire state of Louisiana, but I know it's not the entire state of Louisiana. It's just, go on, man. We like I say, we'd be here all day. Oh my God. Just terrible. I'm going to have to pull a Charles Barkley. It's just terrible.
Yeah, well, just quickly, if we can do, and not to get into a whole lot about it, but you may be tuning in and wondering, what are they talking about? But Louisiana Tech, of course, and Prairie View Panthers were scheduled to play a football game this year, but of course, the Southwestern Athletic Conference members are only playing a conference-only schedule, and we'll get more into this. And the game with Louisiana Tech had to be canceled. And so the cancellation fee, basically, for Louisiana Tech is that Prairie View A&M Panthers, they will have to pay a fee. And Louisiana Tech Athletic Director Tommy McClellan says his program intends to notify Prairie View A&M to pay them the $500,000 cancellation fee for their September 19th game. Now, the deal had Louisiana Tech paying Prairie View A&M $350,000 and has a smaller force majeure clause listing only acts of God and nature and acts of common enemy. McClellan says, and not Dr. Charles McClellan, but Tommy McClellan, Louisiana Tech Athletic Director, says, in our opinion, we're having to reschedule the game due to their cancellation. And then there's other examples, Mississippi Valley State playing Nickel State, and the title of the article, as I scroll up here, and I'll give you the title of it, and it's a long article. It was produced by Brooks Kubina, staff writer for The Advocate. How can we recover $14 million at stake if Louisiana schools don't play non-conference games? So that's kind of the headline of the story. It is going to be very interesting to just follow that. And then questions come about basic contracts between institutions playing a sporting event, cancellation clauses, fees, and just, I don't know, just from the outside looking in, shame on Louisiana Tech. Shame. And hopefully this will be worked out with all parties involved, but I'm sure that's why you have legal representation, Dr. Prince.
No doubt. You legal representation and a good old stiff billy club.
Speak softly and carry a big stick, or speak loudly and carry a bigger stick.
Both. Have a good old biggin. Have a good old biggin and mollywop him right across the top of his head. You got to be kidding me.
One could say that in the future there will be no relationship between Prairie View and Louisiana Tech, I would say.
Should there be? I mean, there's
you could
else to talk about.
If you slap me once, I'm not going to sit there and say, well, okay, maybe they didn't mean it. They had some other reasons going on, and I'll try to give them another chance. And then you get slapped on the other side.
Man.
Nah, I'll have to take but one time.
Yeah.
For me.
And it just lets you know what they really think about you. I mean, and maybe I'm taking it personal, but that lets me know what you really think about me as an institution, as an individual, as a man. That's disrespectful in every angle from my vantage point. But I'm not going to get started. I'm not going to get started.
And another bigger picture is, folks, when you're doing contracts, make sure you protect yourself at all times.
No doubt.
All times.
But even when it says a common enemy, the COVID virus is a common enemy for all of the world. And you want to get rinky-dinky like that? That's okay. I'm not going to get started, Carlos. You're not going to draw me in this morning. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Well, we are going to talk about other big things, and people are weighing in. But the bulk of today's show, it's finally been decided, and it wasn't just a spur of the moment decision. It was time and thought put into the decision, and it happened. And so now pulling this off in the spring, having multiple sports, that is going to be a major point of topic forthcoming. And also, I did read, had an article and had a chance to read it. Dr. McClellan also said that basically playing in the spring, multiple sporting events will depend on COVID-19 cases being much better. Because if it's not, they have the flexibility to say, look, nope, we're not going to do it even in the spring. So you're going to have to look at all of those situations. But, wow. Who would have thought 6-7 months ago that this would be the world today? And when they say global, it's global. And no one would have thought. No one.
No one would have thought it. And La Tech acting like we didn't want to show up or we're cowering out on the game. Man. That's okay. It's too early for a drink, isn't it?
Speak for yourself. But it just depends if it's a cappuccino, coffee.
It's never too early nor too late for coffee.
If it's something a little more impactful, hey.
Wow.
As long as you are within the realms of yourself.
Right. I'm not trying to get on the road or nothing like that. But, man, it makes me want to drive to Louisiana Tech, for real. It really does.
Yeah, I can understand. Thanks, a listener says La Tech has already scheduled a new opponent and is not out of the game, or it can be rescheduled in 2025. Let me read that again. Louisiana Tech has already scheduled a new opponent and is not out of a game, or it can be rescheduled in 2025. Okay. Thank you for that.
But that still doesn't stop the fact of why you want to pursue this thing. Even think about it. Even publicly announce that you're going to contact PV for that. That's just special. That's
Talk to my lawyers.
Yeah. Talk to
my
the
legal
lawyers,
representative.
Talk to the hand, and talk to my Billy Club. It's all good, though. It's all good.
Also, a listener says there should be no relationship between any SWAC member school and Louisiana Tech because it is a SWAC mandate decision.
No doubt.
SWAC announced postponement. And it goes back to last week, that tremendous source who said it would be canceled. That'll be it. Well, he was wrong. Be right before you be first. Ultimately, but postpone. But on a serious note, very serious note, you got to have these COVID-19 cases. You got to have some control. And the question will be, even in March, April, January, February, when the training starts for the student athletes, I just, I'm cautiously optimistic. It's going to be interesting. Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a time out. And let's talk to the experts. Coming up next, Dr. Jason Cable of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, who'll be joining the Carlos Brown Show for the first time, and lifelong participant in athletics, former basketball player. Oh, I know him so well. He'll join me next here on the Carlos Brown Show. Then following Dr. Cable will be Dr. Travian Scott. So sit back. We'll take a quick time out. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
I present to you 3 of the fiercest subjects ever assembled in the cage of doom. First, the brain-wrenching behemoth, Algebra 2, weighing in at a mind-boggling 800 pounds. Foreign languages! The multilingual international sensation capable of tossing you clear across the Atlantic. And finally, biology. More ferocious than formaldehyde, she'll dissect you 1 chromosome at a time. Who among you will step up to their challenge?
Yeah, I'll do it. Me too. I'm in. Sign me up.
Take on the tough classes now. You need them to prepare for college. Find out which classes you need at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. First guest of today's show, Dr. Jason Cable, Senior Associate Commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference and team member for the first time on the Carlos Brown Show, Dr. Jason Cable. Jason, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. How's it going?
It's going well. I appreciate the time, and first time on the Carlos Brown Show. Hopefully it won't be the last time, sir. Appreciate the time. And Jason, I remember you well. A relationship with the Southwestern Athletic Conference as a student athlete, now in administration with the Southwestern Athletic Conference. One could say you love the Southwestern Athletic Conference, sir.
Yes, I definitely love the Southwestern Athletic Conference. I grew up in Huntsville, Alabama. So you have Van Pettaway coming on a little bit later. I'm going to stay around for that interview. But I grew up around 5 miles from Alabama A&M. At that time, it was a part of the SIAC. So I grew up every Saturday in the fall going to football games, and in the winter and spring going to basketball games. And one defining moment for me, and I think we spoke about this the other day, Mr. Brown, was in 1997, having the opportunity to see Southern University play Alabama A&M at their home. It was I think one of their first games in Louis Cruz Stadium. Stadium was fairly new, and I was used to getting to games around 30 minutes before game time. And that particular day, I got there, and Southern had already kind of took over the business side and some of the home side. So that atmosphere was definitely electric, and it piqued my interest with SWAC member institutions, and I've been hooked ever since. So I've been working for probably around 15 years, I think, and 13 of those years have been as a member of a SWAC institution or with the conference as I am now. A basketball player, student athlete at Alcorn State University, also transitioning to Jackson State to further your academic career. And boy, you're right.
You love the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And it's interesting, quickly, that you mentioned that was my only time visiting Huntsville. Beautiful city, beautiful stadium. And what a disappointing loss. That ball game. I would just say, Jason, it was a long flight back. Actually, it was a short one, but a valuable lesson. You've got to come to play, compete every day.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And they had a long history. Alabama A&M has a long history of winning in the SIAC before they came over to the SWAC. So they wasn't a cupcake. So.
Well, being a cocky, confident Southern fan, I learned a lesson that day. As I stated, a very humbling experience, very humbling, but interesting. Appreciate those little tidbits, and now, of course, the big news, and kind of get your perspective on the SWAC announced that postponement of all scheduled fall contests along with SWAC championships due to concerns related to COVID-19 global pandemic. Jason, talk to us about just the process of determining, postponing the fall sports to the spring 2021.
Yeah, it was a very comprehensive process, and I don't want to sound cliche by giving my boss a compliment, but he did a great job managing this process from start to finish. Even at the onset of it, during the basketball tournament, our commissioner, Dr. McCullough, is on the basketball selection committee. So he was in New York. And at that time, it was the epicenter of the pandemic. And he's in the room with commissioners, high-level athletic directors, and they're making decisions about the basketball tournament. So he had a bird's eye view and inside information on how we should move forward. And so right at the beginning of the pandemic, we were at the forefront by benefit of having our commissioner in the room with those high-level executives. And so moving forward, he continued to have that insight. We created a comprehensive advisory committee that consisted of around 40 people from around the conference, student athletes, coaches, athletic trainers, athletic directors, senior women administrators. And we got together and just evaluated just one question, can we play with what we know? We started that process early May, and we got to the point where we didn't feel like we could play with what we knew. And so working with our athletic directors group, Ashley Robinson is the chair of that group, and Ms. Kilbert, Alisa Kilbert, is the co-chair. And so they devised a plan to move to the spring. And so that plan was presented to the presidents. And so they approved the plan. And now we're looking forward to planning to having a spring season for fall sports if, numbers, we can tend to trend in the opposite direction as we are right now as it concerns COVID-19. So it's not 100% for sure, but that's our plan right now. And we'll let the medical professionals and what happens with the pandemic kind of dictate our plan moving forward.
And Jason, after that decision and announcement, it kind of was the talk of national media, because other conferences that basically suspended or not having fall sports without any options. But now Southwestern Athletic Conference puts forth a plan to address that in the spring. So now it's been the talk of the nation that the Southwestern Athletic Conference, first conference to have, a plan, if I can put it that way, exceeding the fall sports, and postponing them. How has that came across to you guys now that you're now the talk of the nation?
Well, I think the purpose for us moving the sports to the fall sports to the spring was the one, kind of give our fans something to look forward to and our student athletes something to look forward to, and give an opportunity for this thing to play out. We didn't want to just say we're not going to have sports this year. We wanted to continue to monitor the pandemic, continue to receive information from medical professionals, NCAA, and other stakeholders, and then we can make an appropriate decision down the line. But we didn't want to cancel fall sports without giving our fans, student athletes, and other constituents the opportunity to look forward to a spring schedule.
So in other words, it also seems to be some flexibility in the conference decision going forward. That's thus the plan, correct?
Oh, absolutely. It's not in stone. We do have flexibility in terms of we're looking at a 7-game season right now, but that could increase to 8 or 9 games just depending on, the pandemic and the numbers, right? And so we just wanted to put the worst case scenario in place, in which we did, and how we move forward with a spring season. And so it's not just football. We have soccer, volleyball, and cross country slated to participate in the spring as well. But we're just looking at different scenarios at this point to just best fit where we are when that time comes about. So when we get to the spring, if everything's looking good and we can continue on as planned, if we come to a place in October or November where things are cleared up, there may be some changes there, but we're going to continue to monitor the situation and stay as flexible as possible, and ensuring that our institutions, they have the opportunity to provide sports, and also an opportunity to conserve their budgets and contracts and things of that nature, because there's a business side to the decision as well.
You're absolutely right. I'm visiting with Dr. Jason Cable, Senior Associate Commissioner for the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Contracts, and, there's been some news that has came out, involving institutions, Prairie View being one, Louisiana Tech. How important it is to, look at contracts, and is that something that, with this pandemic going on, is that something that we should not look at as hard, or is it really important as well?
I think it's important. It's not more important than the health and safety of our student athletes, and that's the basis of the decision. But it is important as we start looking forward and making sure that we are viable in terms of a budget, right? So guarantee games make up a significant portion of our institution's budget in football and men's basketball. So we wanted to make sure that the timing was right when we make the decision, giving our institution the opportunity to visit with those schools that they have contracts with, so they have time to amend those contracts or modify those contracts and not receive a penalty. And so I think we steered clear of it. I mean, we're not out the water yet, but I think, as I illustrated earlier, I think we gave them the best case scenario.
Jason, there has been some questions already about student athletes that normally participate in fall sports now participating in the spring. Are there any, or will there be any eligibility concerns with those student athletes?
Well, there are questions, and so we're working with the NCAA right now to answer those questions. But as of right now, if the spring was right now, we would play under the same eligibility guidelines as we did in the fall. And so we have to continue to work with the NCAA. There may be one-time exceptions. I don't know at this point. They're still in the process of creating plans for fall sports moving to the spring as well. And so we just have to continue to stay in contact with the NCAA and see if there are any changes that may exist with fall sports participating in the spring.
Yeah, because I know that was kind of a discussion, and listeners are kind of, talking about that as we speak on that situation. If I can, let me move back to the financial piece. I know institutions, Coach Banks at Southern University said it's going to take them some time to kind of get back to pre-pandemic position as far as the athletic department. As far as the conference, your plan for financial stability, it's you have one, and you still believe that this conference will, be okay financially after get through this pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. Our commissioner has done a great job in terms of growing the brand. We have a lot of people that are interested in the SWAC right now. We have a number of corporations and partnerships that yield sponsorships, right? And so and we are financially stable. So moving forward, I think we will be okay. Obviously, we need to have a basketball season. There is revenue distribution that comes from NCAA to the conference from the men's basketball tournament. We need to have that tournament, but as of now, we're financially strong.
Well, that's good. And from the outside looking in, I had to ask that question, get a comment on it, but I really believe that everything would be all right because you guys are planned and you organize very well, and an exciting time still, even in the midst of a pandemic, Jason, because you know why? FAMU and Bethune-Cookman, the addition to the Southwestern Athletic Conference. The buzz is still going on. Could you, sir, talk about what does that addition mean to the Southwestern Athletic Conference?
Oh, it means everything at this point. I mean, it makes us the premier the premier conference similar to the SEC. And so I got SWAC and SEC crossed up there, but I think we are the premier HBCU conference. And when you look at the addition of FAMU and BCU, both who have been very strong, particularly in the sports of football, basketball, and baseball over the years. And you bring them into a conference that's traditionally strong in football, and we're getting stronger in basketball and baseball. And you look at the opportunities for classics, right? So every Saturday in the fall or in the spring, moving forward this year, you're looking at a classic football game, a classic environment, and so it's just a lot of excitement, to be in the media market in Florida was important. And I just can't tell you how fascinated we are with having those two institutions to join our conference.
You're absolutely right. I agree. From, of course, your sport, when you're a student athlete, basketball, baseball, very competitive. Of course, football, volleyball, track and field. It is just going to be so exciting. But I will say this, and I'll ask you this because you're a former student athlete and an athlete. You got to bring your A game now. If you're a student athlete and also the CEOs of those individual programs, it's going to be #competitive. I know you have to agree with that, Jason.
Yeah, it's going to be competitive. I mean, there's no favor in the East or West. All schools in each division, they're going to have to bring their A game, every day. And so that's part of us growing and part of us getting better. And I think it's exciting for our fans, right? You're going to be able to see a competitive game, each time out, and hopefully that will draw more interest and more ticket sales and more and better marketing on a higher level and just benefit our institutions even more. So hopefully there's a residual impact from becoming more competitive, which I know there is, and having FAMU and Bethune kind of take part in the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Visiting with Dr. Jason Cable, Senior Associate Commissioner for Administration with the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Appreciate the time, Jason, as we near the end of this conversation. Two quick things. One being, talk about team administration in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. I know you have a great team assembled that helps in the everyday operation of the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the commissioner put together a great team. Myself, we have Adina Pooler that came over with him from Texas Southern, and Andrew Roberts, who heads up the media relations department. Adina Pooler is our associate commissioner for internal operations. So we have a great team intact. And just came out yesterday, Andrew Roberts sent me a text that said that for the month of June, we were number 6 as related to social media impressions of all conferences. So we outperformed the Big 12 and I think the Big 10. And so he's done a remarkable job of getting the SWAC out there. So I was excited to see that.
That is outstanding. And as we're talking, listeners are chiming in. Alconite better be put in the West. come through, Alcorn. I would assume that is an Alcorn person. And speaking of your expertise in basketball, we were talking to set up this interview, and I just want to, if you can, I believe you told me you were at a basketball game in Baton Rouge, and it was between the two-time defending champs and the hottest team in the conference at that point. How did you feel about the atmosphere of that basketball game? And if you can, talk a little bit about that experience.
Oh, it was a great experience. That game was coming down, I think, a week or so before our conference tournament, and you had two heavyweights. You had Prairie View, the two-time defending champs. You had Southern, resurgent program, and Southern, down the stretch, just so resilient. And I think if we had to replay the tournament, and I'm at the conference office, it's a non-biased, it's just based on my view. I think Southern coming into the tournament were one of our strongest teams, and definitely had an opportunity to win our tournament this year. I mean, I saw that with my own eyes.
Okay, see, because I've been questioned about being objective, and I really can't be objective. and I kind of wanted to, although I know he can hear it, Dr. Prince, those comments, but fact, Prairie View A&M, two-time defending champions, opinion, and a strong opinion, that Southern would have gave them everything they wanted. Okay. All right. You kind of clarify that for me in your opinion, Jason. No, Jason's expertise is in basketball. And I just kind of wanted to get a basketball analysis. And it kind of fits into the narrative of what Coach Pettaway said.
Let me just chime back in. We had a couple of games to go. I'm just saying Southern was playing well at that particular time. We had other programs in the conference playing well too. So I just saw Southern with my own eyes that night.
Brother Jason, may I ask this question, please, sir? Officially, the 2020 campaign is over with, right? Right. When 2021 starts, who will be defending champion?
PVA.
PVAMU?
Yes.
Okay, and that's a fact, right, sir?
That is a fact.
Okay, that's not an opinion. Okay.
That is a fact.
Okay, now your opinion with who do you think would win it in 2021? But we're not asking about opinions, we're based on facts right now, right?
Right.
And in your opinion, Southern University was one of the hotter teams leading toward the tournament, correct?
Yes.
Okay, but Prairie View was still defending champion.
Well, I will object. That was a fact that Southern was one of the hottest teams.
Well, okay, sir, you can object, but the fact was Prairie View was still defending champion, right?
Mm-hmm. And I acknowledge that.
Okay, I'm just acknowledging it too.
And most people acknowledge that because that's a fact.
Okay, but you got to get off the little Jimmy the Cricket when you wish upon a star. I'm going to let you continue on, sir, but I thank you very much, Brother Jason Cable, for straightening that out, okay? I'm sorry, Dr. Jason Cable. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's just Jason, and I have to piggyback on the commissioner. He said he earned the right to be called Doctor or earned the right to be called Charles. So I'm with him.
Oh, my sentiments exactly, sir.
I'm Jason,
and I'm Mike, and this other guy, we'll call him Mr. Brown,
and the people's champion. Dr. Cable, one quick question. The listener wanted to know, Access playing in the spring would lead to a better TV deal.
That's possible. I mean, if you look at spring right now at this point, who would be our competition, right? I mean, you would have the men's basketball tournament, but, we would play longer than the tournament. I think the tournament ends around the first week in April. And so I anticipate the championship game would be around the second or third week. So, yeah, I think so. I mean, at that time, I think we're the only show in town. And so I think that we can leverage playing in the spring to increase our TV contracts, increase revenue, all those things you want to do as a conference. So, yes, to answer your question, yes.
Yeah. And as we wrap it up, once again, the flexibility to move forward in decision making for the conference. We will note that also postpone, not suspend, as far as the conference moving forward in their decision. We also kind of talked about in some things were still open in as far as the eligibility of student athletes participating in spring that are accustomed to playing their particular sports in the fall. And of course, as with all good plans, there is some flexibility, Jason, if COVID-19 cases in this geographical blueprint, which is now really spiking, if those numbers don't improve, there's the flexibility for the conference to, halt that plan for spring 2021. Am I correct on those comments?
Yeah, absolutely. Two things that guide our decision from the very beginning, and that's student athlete welfare, health and safety, and also what's going on with the pandemic, our numbers, how are we trending? So definitely if we get to a point in the spring or, prior to the spring where numbers are trending in the opposite direction, then no, we won't move forward with the planned schedule. We will have to adopt a modified schedule.
And once again, appreciate your time. And also, it wasn't planned as far as the interview, but really appreciate your expert analysis on the basketball comments as far as going into the tournament. You could have just dodged it, but the true warrior and competitor that you are, you were able to give your opinion and facts on that situation. So with that being said, Jason, we appreciate the time. We look forward to talking with you real soon and enjoy your absolutely great weekend.
Well, thank you. I'll acknowledge you accordingly, Mr. Brown and Mike. It was great talking to you. Great talking to you this morning. And thanks for having me on.
All right. We appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
I want to give a shout out to Travion. You have Dr. Scott up next. So,
oh yeah,
I want to give a shout out to him. He was actually playing at Southern when I was playing at Alcorn. So during the course of the interview, just ask him, who won that battle of his 4 years there.
Oh, okay, Jason. Boy, I tell you, Alcorn. Alcorn.
You know what, Jason? I'll be sure to ask that. I'll be sure to ask that next segment. I'll ask that for him because he's not going to ask that one. I'll ask that one for him. Okay, I got you covered, Jason. I got you covered.
Okay, hopefully it was competitive.
Well, did somebody say some smoke?
Oh yeah, they're gonna let you know about that. They really are. Appreciate you, Jason. Okay. Have a great weekend.
Okay.
And he's right. Coming up next, Dr. Travion Scott joins me next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Prince, the pastor of the Temple of Refuge Ministries located in Prairie View, Texas. I am extending a personal invitation to you to come and worship with us Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Simply dial 857-777-0000 and join us for our morning worship. In the event that you miss us live, you can always go to our on-demand center at 720-721-1558 to listen to our latest sermons and Bible studies. Temple of Refuge Ministries, where we're building the kingdom, one soul at a time. Numbers to dial again for our live sermons, 857-777-0000 and on demand, 720-721-1558. Be blessed.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and another, and many, many more, and we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Guest number 2, Dr. Travian Scott, Deputy Athletic Director and COO of the Southern University. Dr. Scott, Travian, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. How's everything going? I'm still trying to recover from Jason Cable, but nonetheless, how's everybody doing this morning?
Well, we're doing fine. He did ask us to ask you a question, though, and I'm just being obedient, to the great Dr. Jason Cable, who serves as the administrative officer of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Could you give us a quick results on the head-to-head competition, sir, in basketball?
Sure. That was during a time in which Southern University men's basketball.
I said a quick answer, sir. I said a quick answer.
We're going through a transition. Alcorn had the better team. Jason was a hell of a player. I think they won the conference 2 times back to back those 2 years. Individually though, I thought I gave it to him pretty good. So because he can't come back on and defend himself, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
There you go.
Boy, he answered that in a Southern way, didn't he?
and then we're forgetting another person, Mr. Ashley.
Yeah. And so Ashley Robinson played at Mississippi Valley. So Ashley was a junior, Jason was a sophomore, and I was a little freshman, wet behind the ears. And those guys were great basketball players in their own right. Ashley could stroke it from deep and was a hell of a leader. Jason was a glue guy, could score from anywhere, had a great mid-range game, and was one of those big, stocky guards that was hard to defend. And I was just young, at the time, 185, 190 pounds, know-it-all freshman. And those guys brought me in and indoctrinated me pretty well as a basketball player. And now I find myself being reintroduced to their seniorhood and being the elder statesman of the group. So got a lot of love and respect and admiration for those guys. And we remain friends and talk often. And so shout out to those guys for really helping me along the way as a young man's basketball player and now administrator in the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
And that's a great thing. And the lessons learned on that basketball court, practice. Now look at all 3 of you now. That says it all. One of the things that I will tell you about those 2 gentlemen, and not just those 2, but I'll specifically hone in on them, is that, we've always been available to one another. And I share a lot of their characteristics as it relates to being a lifelong learner and really wanting to understand this business from the inside out. And so if I have questions, Ashley Robinson can be on speed dial at any moment. I talked to Jason as recent as yesterday, right? So
we have quite a bit of engagement with his position as a senior associate commissioner and my position as a deputy AD at Southern. But above that, if I needed something or needed to know something on a personal level, if I needed help or they needed help, or thoughts and opinions as it relates to our career trajectories and things of that nature, those guys have always been open and available to me, and I appreciate them for that.
Yeah, a great brotherhood, a playing relationship at first, and now a professional relationship, and that is just outstanding. And speaking of relationships, now with the decision being made, kind of get Travian, your thoughts on the SWAC's decision to postpone fall sports. In a word, I would say in a word, it was a great decision. I think that one of the things that we pride ourselves on is making sure we do the things that are in the best interest of the student athlete. And I want to give kudos to the conference office and Dr. McClellan, Dr. Cable, our sports management committee, which is comprised of our athletic directors and senior women administrators, for really putting the student athletes first. I think, in that regard, it was the right decision to make. Usually when I'm talking to you all, I'm watching CNN and some of the news stations and really trying to get an understanding of where we are as a nation with regard to this virus. And, we're not in a position right now where the virus is even starting to level off at this point. And so we've got to give it the opportunity to really peak, so to speak, and really enter a downward phase so that we can gain some control over it. And right now, with the things that our student athletes have to undergo in terms of strength and conditioning, in terms of practice, in terms of all of those things that they have to do athletically, which in some semblance we may be able to control, right? But what we can't control is, what are they doing when they're going to class? What are they doing during their free times? How do we prevent them from trying to live a normal college life, right? And those are answers that, quite frankly, we don't have the answers to. Well, questions rather that we don't have the answers to. And so the sports management committee and the conference office thought best to try to reschedule the season to the spring if we can have it. And I thought it was the right decision. I really did. Yeah, and I personally agree with this, the decision, and I've talked to many people who believe that it was the decision that you had to make. Health and safety of the student athlete, the support staff, fans, and it's interesting, Travian, because our fan base, when I say our, within the HBCU blueprint, a lot of our fans are they're a little bit older. They have underlying conditions. So not only the safety of the student athletes, but your fan base, it had to be taken into account. It really
absolutely. And you know what? I'll take it a step further. The support staff. It's so much that goes into preparing student athletes for competition, whether that be on the field or in the classroom, right? And so even at the institutional level, we may have, and I'm not saying this is the case, but we may have, some of the support staff with underlying conditions, the academic support staff, the compliance team, the strength and conditioning staff, the sports medicine staff. And again, we haven't yet really approached it holistically from an institutional level. A lot of our instructors may have those conditions, those underlying conditions, which, may perpetuate this COVID-19. And so once you approach that from the student athlete space, and then you got to move into, our season ticket holders, our fans, our other stakeholders, what does that look like? And so, with all of those things in mind, I believe that the correct decision was made. And I believe it places us in an even stronger position because the SWAC now has stepped out there and said not only that we're going to play in the spring, but that we have a plan moving forward, how that's going to look in terms of, I think I heard Jason reference the classic atmosphere, and how we're going to preserve some of those things in light of COVID-19, how we're going to move them forward, how we're going to position ourselves with regard to our schedules. And so that's a great thing to see. The leadership has been outstanding at all levels, from the conference level in Birmingham all the way down to our institution. And so it's a great day to be in administration in the SWAT. And it's always great when you have a conference office and you've got athletic administration and those athletic directors and senior women administrators who are putting student athletes, who are putting our administration, our support staff, and our fans first.
A great team has been assembled, not only at the conference level, but at the institutional level. And speaking of the institutional level, the sport of football, the plan includes a 7-game conference schedule beginning with the 8-week training period in January 2021. Now, it says each member institution will play a total of 6 conference games, 4 divisional, 2 non-divisional, with the option to play 1 non-conference game. So with that being set in place, again, and it's mindful, predicated on numbers being much better or containable in 2021, Southern University and their schedule. So it's kind of laid out for you. But as far as how are you guys going to market the spring season of sporting events, and within that, multiple sporting events? I know you guys have met and are meeting to continue to put together a plan. How will you guys address it?
Well, I think first and foremost, we're going to follow the guidance of the conference office as it relates to those other fall sports. Obviously, football is important, but you can't leave out the importance of volleyball, cross country, and soccer. And so once we receive that guidance, then I believe that we'll be able to finalize our plans relative to how we're going to move forward. What we're doing now in terms of now that we know that football is going to be a spring sport is that we're now conceptualizing these packages, right, of how we're going to position football, basketball, baseball, and some of the other sports relative to our fans and how we could roll those things into individual packages to be able to provide them to our fans at a cost. So we're creating interesting packages. We're moving forward. We're trying to create the environment where our fans can enjoy all of our sports using football and men's basketball and women's basketball and, of course, baseball as a catalyst. And so plans are in place now to move forward in that regard. And it's something that we'll take a look at here in the next coming weeks. But we'll be guided by the conference office with regard to what we're going to do when the precise dates are for football. We will have in mind those other fall sports and if we're going to roll them into the spring experience. And if that happens, then we will come up with creative method strategies and packages for our season book holders and for our individual ticket holders to be able to come out and enjoy all of our fall, spring, winter sports on the Southern University campus during the spring semester.
Because I can remember, Travian, in years past, like in particular during that specific time in the spring, you may have had spring football game, baseball was going on, a game, softball, and I guess the package kind of was how Southern sold it was, come enjoy a 2 or 3 for 1 deal, right. Somewhere in that vicinity as far as getting people on campus and then having the flexibility to try to attend multiple sports. And it actually I enjoyed it. It was very fun. I mean, and I was a little younger then, but it was a good thing to have that kind of activities going on campus. Is that kind of the way you guys are thinking about doing it?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, I'll tell you something that can't be stated enough in having and being able to put forward a plan in that regard is that it gives you an opportunity to view and appreciate student athletes who you otherwise wouldn't get an opportunity to experience, namely softball. Coach Garris does a great job with our softball program, and so it gives our fans an opportunity to go over to Lady Jaguar Park and take in the softball game. It gives you an opportunity to go over and see Coach Jackson and some of the very special things that he's doing over on the baseball diamond. Obviously, Coach Odom has done some great things in football with back-to-back Western Division championships. He's a stalwart. We know that. we see him on Saturdays, whether that be in A.W. Mumford Stadium or by traveling and being a member of the Jaguar Nation. We know what Coach Woods was able to do. And Dr. Prince, I can tell you that we were going to win the tournament, but that's another conversation. And Coach Funches has done an outstanding job. And so, it gives the ability to be able to see Southern University in holistically as a department, and it really highlights some of the things that we've instilled in our coaches and our student athletes by allowing them to be able to, again, to shine their lights and show their talent and represent the blue and gold if we're able to highlight them in that way. And so that gives us that opportunity. We're going to take full advantage of it, and we need the Jaguar Nation to come out and support Southern University athletics during the spring semester.
Visiting with Dr. Travian Scott, Deputy Athletic Director and COO, Chief Operating Officer at Southern University. Visiting with him, and as always, appreciate your time. Travian, any feedback so far from season ticket holders? Or do they have questions, concerns? You maybe can ease their concerns right now.
Sure. So, yes, we've gotten quite a few questions from our season book holders. We like to refer to ourselves as being an open book, or think of ourselves rather as being an open book. And so we put a lot of things out on social media. We do a lot in terms of communication through the ticket office. We've got a 36-hour response time over email. Obviously, our ticket office, led by Ms. Aretha Hunt, does a great job with customer service and being able to answer customer questions. But just from the standpoint of what we're doing season ticket-wise. And so right now, again, we're going to be guided by the conference office. We're going to wait to see exactly what we're going to do in terms of how many home games versus how many road games. There is an opportunity that A.D. Banks and I have been discussing about what we're going to do in terms of a non-conference opponent, whether or not we're going to petition a league, Dr. Cable, to maybe have two non-conference opponents on our campus to be able to ensure that we have enough and we create and maintain the integrity of that 5-game schedule that we had this fall. And so once we get and receive that guidance, then we will have the information out to our season ticket holders on, what those next steps are. And so full disclosure, this is a process. We've got about 6,000 season ticket holders, and we plan to cater to each and every one of you. So if you have any questions, I'm available on social media. Our ticket office number is 225-771-3171. And we're more than able and apt to be able to answer all of your questions, all of your concerns, and quite frankly, to be able to address any criticism that you have, because I think that's important. I think that we become stronger when we can address questions and concerns from all facets. So, some things may be in some vantage points not so good. We want to take those items and be able to answer those questions as freely and as candidly as possible. But we also want to learn from them and put ourselves in a position to improve our department, our ticket experience, and our customer service experience, because ultimately that's going to transcend and transition over to the game day experience. And so what our fans say, what our season ticket holders say, what our stakeholders say is a high level of importance to us. And so, like I said, any comment, any questions, any feedback, please come forward, let us know, and we're going to do our very best to make sure that we address them on their heads, but that we address them in the mindset and the approach that we're going to improve upon whatever those concerns are.
Travian, we have a listener who, I guess it's a question/comment. This listener says, I assume if a fall sports student athlete is academically ineligible for the fall semester, that they will be able to bring their grades up for the adjusted spring semester. Can you speak on that, or you rather not?
Yeah, sure. Again, I'm an open book. Short answer is I hope so. Again, we haven't received that guidance yet from the NCAA. That comes from the NCAA down to the conference office. I can tell you this about the NCAA. There's more COVID relief and COVID legislation now out, and that the institutions can follow. So my belief is that the short answer to that question would be yes, But again, as Dr. Cable stated so eloquently earlier, aside from that one comment about him beating us, is that, we continue to receive that guidance. It's something that we receive almost on a weekly basis, honestly. And so because the full membership hasn't transitioned to the full spring model, that the NCAA and those working groups are still, in the process of developing a lot of that legislation moving forward. So I would believe that it would. One of the things that our conference has done as a whole academically is really, really done a great job of understanding APR and understanding eligibility and applying applicable legislation. So if that comes out, again, it'll be pushed through the conference office. The institutions individually will take it and apply it as they fit to their student athletes. But my answer would be I would believe that they would, and that would obviously give those student athletes an opportunity to compete that year of eligibility for them individually.
And also, Travian, you're probably looking at, because this is unprecedented times, it's pandemic, some exemptions. Should I use another term? I'm saying exemptions. Use flexibility by the NCAA. Will you see some more exemptions legislation?
I think so. And we term it as an exception, but we understand what that means. And, we've seen when COVID-19 first came out and we started to shut everything down as a result of the Rudy Gobert thing with the Utah Jazz, and you started to see how the NCAA wanted to move in regards to student athletes who lost opportunities, right? And so that started with men's basketball. Obviously, they were in a position of where they were getting ready to compete on the national level at the conference tournament, and so most of their season had already been completed. They were entering postseason. But baseball, softball, tennis, outdoor track and field, right, never got the opportunity to participate. So the NCAA came back, those working groups came back, and they allowed them the exemption to say, hey, we're going to give you this extra year of eligibility. Well, similar to that, they also came back and said, hey, if you receive aid, then here's how we're going to approach you being able to come back and not count towards the applicable limits for your sport. For example, baseball gives 11.7 scholarships. There's no way for Coach Jackson on my end to say, okay, I'm going to bring in a recruiting class, because his recruiting class is based on the dollars that he would lose from his seniors who were departing the program, right? And so now he's bringing in a new class, but he's maintaining the old class. Well, how do you fit that within that 11.7 model when you signed a lot of these kids prior to COVID, right? So that's a written, legal, binding document that you have to adhere to, right? And so the NCAA obviously gave us an exception on that guidance and really assisted the institutions in bringing back student athletes and giving them that opportunity. Moving into the fall, the NCAA said, okay, here's what we're going to do. In light of COVID-19, if you have student athletes who otherwise would have needed summer school to be eligible, then we would give them a COVID exception, right? And what that looks like is, hey, if they're short 3, 6, 9 hours, then you can essentially give them this COVID exception, but you have to have an academic plan in place for them to be able to recoup those hours and graduate within that 10th semester limit. And so that essentially single-handedly rescued a lot of these institutions who use summer school as a mechanism to recover academically in regards to APR. And so, obviously with COVID-19 and some of the NCAA distributions that are affected by the NCAA tournament not being played, I don't think that can be stated enough and how valuable the NCAA tournament is to the membership. You're talking about a $3 billion event that really funds a lot of the individual programming from the NCAA level down to the institutions. And so when you don't have those dollars, obviously that affects your overall budget. And so with that trickles down to summer school, that trickles down to eligibility. And with the NCAA knowing this, they allowed us the COVID-19 exemption moving into the fall. And so those are just a couple of examples that were utilized. Again, the NCAA has been a very willing partner. The SWAC office has been a very willing partner to all of our institutions. And so now we're positioned to be able to move our departments forward in light of not having fall sports. And so I think that helps. And I look forward, and I plan on actually doing a little bit more reading this week to see where we are on additional exemptions and exceptions moving forward.
If I didn't know any better, I'd say you were a point guard and you're playing there. A question and a comment, and then I'll end the conversation. And once again, appreciate the time, being transparent, and providing valuable information. This is a listener all the way from the huge metropolis of Houston. Okay. On season books, can you ask Dr. Scott, when will Southern University allow you to pay your season book invoice online with a credit card? This would greatly help the season book holders' experience. Thanks.
So from one season book holder to another, we're working on that right now. Actually, we are in the process of procuring what we call Arctic software, and so moving forward, hopefully we'll have it ready for the spring. If not, we will definitely have it ready for the fall to be able to get an invoice electronically, to be able to pay over a computer electronically, and for those tickets to be pushed to your cell phone device. So that's something that we're currently working on and working toward. It's long overdue, in my estimation. But again, we're in a position now where we're able to hear some of those concerns and be able to act on them, and not be able to just act on them, but be able to devise a plan budget-wise that would allow us to then be able to withhold those expenses from a budgetary standpoint. So we're working on those now. Again, if we don't have it up and ready for the for the spring season, with all this COVID stuff going on, kind of having an adverse effect on our budget. But if not this spring, we will definitely have it up and ready for the next fall 2021 season.
And for the record, this individual is an IT guy, a Southern graduate. So if you need any help, any expertise, just let me know. And this is a good guy. This is a guy that's in Houston, but still has been very supportive. And I'll add that little piece of conversation there.
Absolutely.
And a comment here. This is from another listener from the state of Texas as well. That's where he resides now. Let Dr. Scott know that they had an excellent presentation yesterday for our Alumni Federation Virtual National Conference. Mr. Point Guard, outstanding.
Well, tell him I said thank you. Tell him I said thank you. We did, A.D. Banks and I made a presentation to our National Alumni Federation National Virtual Conference. Of course, that National Alumni Association is led by Mr. Quita Thomas, Madam President. And so we got a chance to talk about where we are in terms of COVID, where we were in terms of the spring season, and really had an opportunity to break down some things academically that were going on in our department, and really show our alums what we were doing in terms of academics over the course of the past 3 years, obviously, through the receipt of our academic progress and accelerated academic success, I should say, program grant. One of the last things I was able to do during that presentation was to talk about the importance of fundraising and bringing those dollars in light of COVID, in light of their grant expiring, and in light of being able to move our department forward. And we talked about, I was able to play them a commercial that we had put out about our Stand United campaign. It's a virtual campaign that's going to happen on August 3rd. We're going to have our coaches out. We're going to have our corporate sponsors out. We're going to do 3 main sessions. It's going to be from 10 to 11, from 1 to 2, and from 6 to 8 on August 3rd. Obviously, you can make a donation online. You can come on in the scoreboard, or you can call in your donation. And so it's something that we're really looking forward to. It's something that we presented to our national alums. It's something that I'll throw out this morning over the airwaves, and really looking to support. If you're a Southern University alum, a stakeholder, really supporting Southern University athletics. And if you're an alum or a stakeholder of another institution, support your institutions financially, because it's important, especially in light of COVID. But I think COVID has really highlighted the importance of being able to give to your institutions, and also breaking the myth that, $1, $2, $5, $10, $20, $25, $30 don't matter. They do. They really help us, because at the end of the day, we're only going to get so many $250,000, $500,000 individual donors, maybe on the corporate side. But giving back to your HBCUs and really being supportive from a financial standpoint is what's going to keep us solvent, what's going to keep us viable. And listening to Dr. Cable speak about bringing those other institutions aboard, it's going to now become an arms race. It's going to become an arms race with regard to recruiting. And so that's going to create a competitive environment for our institutions to really start to bring things forward and make those improvements in their overall departments, whether that be facilities, whether that be even uniforms I've even seen. And so Stand United campaign, again, is Southern University's version to be able to get our individual stakeholders, supporters, alums alike across the board, 8 to 9, 1 to 2, 6 to 8. Obviously, more information on Southern Youth Sports on Instagram, at Southern Youth Sports on Facebook. Obviously, my personal pages as well, at Trey Scott on Facebook, Twitter, and of course, Instagram.
Appreciate the valuable information, and pass a message for me to Coach Woods. Tell him I will be contacting him, and I want him to come on and bring that same passion that I feel that on court side. I want that same passion coming forward. Because as you can see, I'm trying to set the narrative up, and I don't have to do too much.
Well, Carlos,
Texas Southern and Prairie View, both of them bring it.
I'll tell you this: that's not an act, and he's that way all the time. And so the passion that he exudes is real. He cares about those young men. He does a great job with his student athletes in the classroom. Now, I will say this with Dr. Prince on the phone: I am a big Byron Smith fan as well.
Oh, don't try to make it. Don't try to clean it up now. You already dropped the bombs. Drop the bomb. Don't no.
He's done a great job with his program as the back champ. So, I think I've got a good guy on my side. They're going to compete for years to come.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that wholeheartedly. But I was going to say, man, excellent presentation. But for my feedback section, you were a bit delusional talking about the outcome of the Southern Prairie View game. But I love you very much. I'm going to send you. I'm going to send you some medication to help you overcome those delusions. But a great job, man. Full of information, full of life. I appreciate the job that you're doing. Awesome young mind, but that mind was a little bit tilted on saying that Southern was going to win. I love you, and you, like I said, you do a heck of a job, brother. A heck of a job, But we got to get that head checked out. We got to get that head checked out, man.
and the interesting thing, both of them are Louisiana natives. So they got.
There he want, but okay. There he wanted to throw the Louisiana.
Coach Pugh. All we have to do is get an influence on the baseball side.
Well, you know what I'm feeling about Louisiana right about now. You know what I'm feeling.
Don't judge it by one bad situation.
But great job, brother. But when you get that doctor's visit, don't cancel the appointment. Don't cancel the appointment. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Noted. Duly noted.
Well, Dr. Scott, appreciate the time as always. Very informative. Appreciate you being straightforward, and that's all you can ask.
Thank you for having me.
That's all you can ask. You enjoy the rest of your weekend. Be safe, you and the family, and we will talk again real soon.
Yes, sir. God bless and go Jazz.
All righty. There we go. Boy, you gotta love it. You get a swag perspective. Look, I'm willing to do, and I'll reach out to Coach Smith. I'll reach out to Ashley. Everybody. I'll speak to any and everybody. Doesn't matter to me. Because it's about getting information out, getting the facts out, and also giving your opinion. Facts, opinions, two separate things. And always remember, it is better to be right than being first. And if you be first, be right. Just a simple motto to go by. Speaking of simple, actually, this next person is fantastic. Coach Van Pettaway. I continue to get just tremendous feedback on Coach Pettaway. He's another straightforward guy. We'll visit with him next. And then after Coach Pettaway, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Now, Charles will be modest. Quick story. I got a text message saying, look, Charles Edmonds is going to be on the Paul Feinbaum show. Feinbaum. And I turn over to the SEC Network, and there's Charles talking. He's so modest, he didn't let anybody know. So we'll ask him about that. We'll check on him. See how he's doing. But before then, Coach Van Pettaway is next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Have sports, we'll travel. The Open Mic Broadcast Network serving student athletes from Little League, high school, and collegiate coverage right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network. From coast to coast, from dusk till dawn. You can catch all student athletic action right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network, the station designed with you in mind. Serving the community through faith and athletics, the Open Mic Broadcast Network, the voice of student athletics. You're looking to expand your business or services? Let the Open Mic Broadcast Network help lead the way. With our customized campaigns, we are definitely able to reach your target audience. For more information, dial 832-213-8824. The Open Mic Broadcast Network, serving the community through faith and athletics. The voice of student athletics.
Be the one with courage to fight child abuse.
All Texans must find the courage to fight child abuse.
Learn the signs and symptoms and report suspected abuse to appropriate authorities.
Learn and know these warning signs.
A child who undergoes changes in behavior, appetite, or routine.
Watch for unexplained injuries, a change in academic performance, or loss of interest by a child in regular activities.
Trust your instincts. If you suspect something, do something.
If you believe a child is in an abusive situation, please call the Texas Abuse Hotline at 1-800-252-5400.
Be the one with courage. To find your local Children's Advocacy Center, visit onewithcourage.org.
On behalf of children, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I present to you three of the fiercest subjects ever assembled in the cage of doom. First, the brain-wrenching behemoth, Algebra 2, weighing in at a mind-boggling 800 pounds. Foreign languages! The multilingual international sensation capable of tossing you clear across the Atlantic. And finally, biology. More ferocious than formaldehyde, she'll dissect you one chromosome at a time. Who among you will step up to their challenge?
Yeah, I'll do it. Me too.
I'm in.
Sign me up.
Take on the tough classes now. You need them to prepare for college. Find out which classes you need at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. The Carlos Brown Show's analyst, and we are working on that contract. to give him an extension, Coach Van Pettaway. Coach, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Carlos.
You doing okay, sir?
Hey, I'm doing fine, man. I'm blessed. We're able to see another week, and I think that's all that we all can ask for. God has been good and faithful to all of us.
Yes, sir. And personally, I need to remember that more so. Be grateful. Be grateful.
Yep.
You're still here. And our thoughts and prayers go out to, sometimes, Coach, I'm watching CNN, and they'll do at the end of a segment about they'll put the pictures up and the names of the people who have been lost during this pandemic.
Yeah.
It's very touching. Speaking of touching, he says he's gonna be hanging around to listen. And one of the things I love with talking with you, and talking about you to other people, is you always get some information that you didn't know. And so, visiting with Dr. Jason Cable in hour number one, I knew he played at Alcorn State, and he was a basketball guy, and he had some very provocative comments about the Prairie View and Southern's basketball program, and he was at that last game they played at the end of the regular season. But then talking to you before you came on, and he mentioned you, and you recruited him. And right. What did you just say? I want you to say it. What happened?
Well, no. I'm an open book. I had Jason's family in my office. Jason and Jason's family and I, we all were members of the same church. So I knew Jason growing up. I went to most of his games. Then when it came time for the scholarship offer, at the time I didn't tell them this, but I never had all of my scholarships at Alabama A&M. So I needed Jason on my team, but I needed him to redshirt. And I explained that to his parents, but he had such great skills, he didn't have to do that because he had other offers. So I gave it my best shot. But to this day, had I had my full complements of scholarships, he would have had the scholarship right then and there. But I tried to get him the redshirt. That was a mistake. That was a mistake on my part now. Because this guy had a great career. He one of the toughest players we ever played against in the SWAC. And, of course, he played for Coach Whitney down there, so he's had a great career. But, yes, we wanted Jason. He's right down the street from the school. He came to our games. And he was and his family comes from a great family. And I wanted him to be a part of my program, but God didn't see it that way because I did not have what I needed to get that young man on my campus.
I understand. What a great human interest story, because the dynamics could have been, Alabama A&M still was successful.
Right, but we would have been more successful with Jason.
Put him on your program.
Yep. And then look, then he has turned into an outstanding young man, been in administration all over the SWAC, now in the SWAC office, doing a great job. When you look around the SWAC, some of the leaders, they're former basketball players. You got Scott down there at Southern. You got Ashley, point guard down there at Jackson State. So, and then for me as a coach, to see these young men, I coached against all of them, and to see them progress and be where they are today, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good.
I was talking to a colleague last week about, how tough it is to be director of athletics, even if you're an associate or deputy athletic director. And let's not forget about Mrs. Williams at Alabama State, a basketball background.
Yep.
It is very interesting to see the director of athletics at SWAC institutions that are from a basketball background. Because a lot of times, you talk about, the AD, director of athletics, and they have a football background. But then you look at Coach Banks.
Yep.
So isn't this a good situation that you have the director of athletics with a background in basketball?
to me, anytime that you can have an athletic director that has also been a player and a coach, or got a combination of both, I think it's a great thing because they have the vision from both sides. They were a student athlete. They know what they lack, so they know where to put their emphasis. And see, this isn't just in the SWAC now, because I don't know if you all are aware of this, but with the NABC, we just created the John McClendon Minority Leadership Initiative. And you know what that's for? That is a nationwide initiative to get more minorities, females, blacks, Latinos, into athletic administration, not just at our HBCUs. But they want these people in the Power 5 conferences. Because what they're saying is, and it's true, when you look at the makeup of the athletes now, you got more minorities that are playing now. So they need to see some of us in those leadership roles. So this is a great initiative. It was announced last week. We knew about it because of the NC2A committee that I'm on. We knew this was coming about. The NABC made the announcement last week, and I think it's a great program. It's a great start, and it's long overdue. And one of the other things that the NABC is trying to do, they're trying to get the ACT and the SAT thrown out as an entrance requirement. That would really help more black kids and minorities qualify for college. And I think it's a great move. So, yep, I'm sorry, go ahead.
A great thing, because I saw something on social media with Donna Ware talking to Coach K about the same situation. And Coach, let me do this, because, see, this is what I appreciate. You have people listening, and they're going to keep you straight. And this is directed at me. Mr. Granger at Texas Southern, a basketball guy. How could I forget him?
Yep.
Coach Rusty Ponton. How could I forget about him?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, McCauley says Dina Pooler at the SWAC office, played at South Carolina State. So you get my point. And you get your point. Basketball-related personnel, they have their background in basketball as a student athlete, as a player, and now an administrative part. So I think basketball will be fine.
Oh yes. And then our leader in the conference, Dr. McClellan, he the decision they made to move everything to the spring, I think that was great. And then one of the top columnists here in Alabama, he made the statement, and he's from Birmingham. He put out there, shouldn't the SEC be calling him to talk to him about how his decision to move everything to the spring? Because right now, SEC is still trying to play in the fall. And they're saying, why don't they look at what the SWAC is doing? Move everything to the spring. Give the kids an opportunity to have a less chance of getting infected, because we'll know more about the virus. We may have more time for the virus to leave. So I think they did a great job in moving everything to the spring. Now, on schools on our level, that's going to create some more problems too. There's going to be plenty of problems now, because if you're moving football and all the fall sports to the spring, then you got to add in the spring sports. You got basketball, volleyball, and everybody going at the same time. We're going to be spread thin in our sports information departments, in our training staffs. But you know what? At HBCUs, we're used to doing stuff like this, and they'll make it through. They'll make it through.
Yeah, they'll get it done. I was on social media looking at some comments of people in the field, and they say, yeah, it would be tough, but it's doable.
Right, yeah, it is. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because we're used to overcoming. We're used to working with less. So we're in a better position to get it done. So I commend them for moving everything to the spring, because it is saying that they are real concerned about our student athletes and our staff. It's too early to be trying to compete right now. Let's wait and let's make the adjustments in the spring.
And speaking of adjustments, if you look at some of the articles that Dr. McClellan has talked about, it still gives them the flexibility when the time comes to make, to implement that plan if the numbers are still high.
Correct.
If it's still a hot spot in the geographical blueprint, then they have the authority to say, hey, we're not going to be able to accomplish this, and we'll be able to say a no-go on that. So it leaves them the flexibility, the room to maneuver. And that will depend on, on how people will handle themselves accordingly.
Right, I think it's a great move.
Yeah, because Coach Pettaway, you can still go out and see a certain segment of this population and they still think it's a hoax.
Right.
They don't have on their mask when they go out, and you better not come up in my face talking loud. I talk loud enough, but if you're gonna try to come and talk to me with no mask, back, give me 20 feet.
No, they won't get close to me if they don't have a mask on. They're not getting in. They're not even getting in my atmosphere.
Yeah, and the thing is, Coach, you should have more respect for, if not your life, but somebody else's, that you should have on the proper PPE.
Correct.
When you go out, because if you continue to act foolishly and have those same mindsets, you're still going to see the situation remain the same, or maybe get worse.
Right, and that's why I think for the fans that want to see their favorite collegiate team compete, if they want to see them have an opportunity to get on the floor, then they should be doing what's necessary to help stop the virus. Wear the mask, be protected, do the distance. If you do all of this, it gives your favorite team an opportunity to be able to compete.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't get on top of it and help slow this virus down, then it's going to continue to delay our collegiate athletic. Yeah, the NBA, they can get started because they got the money where they can put everybody in a bubble. But you can't put people in a bubble for football.
But, and I got to be very careful about what I'm going to say. There should be somebody put in a bubble, and it starts in November. Because heaven help us.
Yep.
You will see literally blood in the streets.
Yep. But you know what?
Can't have another uno, dos, tres, cuatro.
Right. Carlos, I mean, for us to say everybody needs to go out, exercise their right to vote, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think if America, we got to wake up. We got to wake up. If we want to see a change, we got to be a part of the change. And that's us exercising our rights.
Yeah, that is a great way to put it. Yep. That is going to be an important day, more so than in the spring. At least I can feel somewhat, maybe, a way that this country positions itself, because you're not responsible for the virus, but you're responsible for the way you react to it, and you have a plan.
Right. And see, what the SWAC did, it gives us hope. I mean, I'm looking forward to being able to watch in the spring, watch basketball, volleyball, and football. I mean, at Alabama A&M, I still attend all the concerts. I would love to be able to go to 3 or 4 different games in 1 week. You know, if that's possible. And then if they're not, they can stream them. Now we look at another revenue source. Stream the services for the people that don't want to come out. Make some money off of it. Help the budgets.
Yeah. Carly said, back, give me 50 feet.
Yep.
Yeah. But as we end that conversation here, I must admit I'm still just amazed that I'm going to go back to Jason. You play him on your team, you got him. Things were different. You put him at the 2, Either 2 or 3?
2 or 3 for Jason, yes.
No, but I'm saying which you were playing both, or would you narrow in on the shooting guard?
Okay, no. With Jason's ability, Jason was a big time guard. You're talking 6'4", 6'5" guard that had weight, that had a great mid range game, and he played so doggone hard. You could play him at the 2 or the 3. In the SWAC, you look for mismatches. You drop Jason down on the block against a 2 guard, it's case closed. It's over with. Now if you bring a big forward out on him, he can put it on the floor, go by and pull up. Mid-range game. So yeah, he can do multiple things. Yeah, he can play.
Well, I'm gonna excuse me. I'm gonna be a little messy here. I wonder who had a better defensive posture against him, Travian Scott or Ashley? But I mean, Ashley.
Oh no! Ashley was too little for Jason now. Ashley was a smaller point guard. Travian had weight. He had size. So Travian was tough also. Now, all 3 of these guys were great players now. And if I'm not mistaken, all 3 of them end up being all conference. So now the ability was there, but when you start talking about physical size, Jason was the largest of the 3, and he would have just overpowered Ashley now, because Ashley is under 6 foot. Yeah, so Jason was a tough matchup now, and he played on a great Alcorn State team, but he helped make it great because of how hard he played.
Yeah, interesting. I kind of trying to get my mind back to. I've met Ashley. I've stood by him.
Right.
And Jason, I've seen him, from the stands, the courtside. But I guess when I meet him in person, I can kind of gather what you're saying as a 6'4", 6'5"
right
player. Yeah, that would make sense. But 3 individuals that were successful on the court, now
off the court.
Successful off the court.
And that's even more important. You're talking about 3 guys that not only got their degrees, they got advanced degrees. Yeah. And see, that's the story we need to be leaving these other young kids. These guys, they saw the value of education. Mm-hmm. So they didn't just stop with 1 degree. And that's what it takes to get ahead in society. And you know what? I hate to say this, but really, all 3 of them, they should be in the Power 5 somewhere, someday. Continue their work in the SWAC now, but they should be in the Power 5.
And that success probably will follow them. And then, again, as we close, let's not forget about Granger and Ponton.
Right.
Jennifer. I mean, they're all...
And I guess I'm just counting in on these guys because I coached against them, I guess. That's what I'm saying. But yes, when you look around the SWAC, the leadership at the SWAC, we've got some great leaders at these different institutions and in our SWAC office.
I would agree. On that note, Coach Pettaway, boy, as always, appreciate your insight. And Jason got away from you, but now I understand how.
Right.
And, boy, it could have changed the dynamics.
Yes, sir.
Even more so.
All right. Well, thank you. God bless you, and you all be safe.
Same to you, Coach. Appreciate the time.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. That was Coach Van Pettaway. As we roll on, if I didn't get a chance to ask questions with Dr. Scott, I see some of you listeners have put forth some questions. I apologize, but we'll try to still pass it on as always. Carlos, if they don't get it done in August, there's going to be blood in the street. Thank you, listener, for that comment. November, huh? Take a quick time out. I'm interested in talking with Charles Edmond, a guest on the Paul Feinbaum show. Did very well. I got a chance to listen to the phone call into the show, and we'll talk to him about that experience and, of course, get his perspective on the news in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. So I'm going to take a quick time out. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
You're looking to expand your business or services? Let the Open Mic Broadcast Network help lead the way. With our customized campaigns, we are definitely able to reach your target audience. For more information, dial 832-213-8824. The Open Mic Broadcast Network, serving the community through faith and athletics. The voice of student athletics. Are you one of the many Americans that deal with the effects of diabetes? Diva Skin Conditioner could be the remedy that you need. Diva Skin Conditioner is a formulation that was designed with you in mind. Diva Skin Conditioner comes with a money-back guarantee. That's how confident they are in their product. For more information, visit divafeet.com. That's D-I-V-A-H, feet.com. Or you can speak with a representative by dialing 903-270-0026.
Welcome back to this final 14 minutes of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. My final guest is none other than Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. And congratulations, Charles. I had people texting me saying Charles Edmond is on the Paul Feinbaum Show. Our star as born.
All right.
well,
far less.
But you did a great job. I heard it.
Well, I appreciate it. And all it was just I just wanted to call on the heels of the SWAC announcement about postponing fall sports, just to give my thoughts on it, and just to kind of roll on. And he kind of took it where he took it, and it just kind of went from there. He talked about Marino Castle. Those are kind of his memories of the SWAC going back to the day. So I was surprised that it went in that direction and it went as long as it did. But, you want to give the SWAC and Alcorn some love, because now on a show like that, you typically don't hear a lot about other conferences other than the Power Five. So I just wanted to chime in on that.
Yeah, well, and speaking of that, on Get Up, you had conversation about the Southwestern Athletic Conference and their plan to move the fall sports to the spring, and it was a lot of buzz nationally.
It definitely was.
From my observation.
Yeah, it definitely was. And I think all in all, if you just take a deep breath and take a step back and think about it, the right thing was done. I mean, I think as a sports fan, and we're all sports fans, we hate it. We got to wait at least 4 months, 5 months, whatever it is. But I think from a safety perspective, I think they did the right thing. And, the conference had all the contingency plans, and, as Dr. McClellan has told you, has told me and others, that this was kind of in the works. I thought as an outsider and following the ebbs and flows of other conferences, once the MEAC made their decision, then everyone assumed and expected that the SWAC would come right on the heels of that almost immediately or within the next 24 hours. Whereas, there are people jumping out and making reports, and he talked about that, how getting it right and getting it first, it was totally incorrect at that time. I mean, a few days later, it turned out to be the truth, but there was obviously some holes to fill those last few days. Like, are you gonna postpone it? You gonna make it in the spring? Or you gonna cancel it altogether? But as he told me and he told others, there was no energy to cancel fall sports at all. That was never on the table, because I'm sure some people would believe that let's just pause sports until 2021, the fall of 2021, not the spring, not the summer, but let's just reset this thing 13 months from now. That was never on the table. The president has never had any desire to do that. They're just taking a pause until the spring, and I think the biggest thing that he has said, and I think we all need to pay attention to and do our part, is that if things don't get better in terms of number and cases, we won't have spring football or any spring in 2021 in terms of those SWAC sports. So we need to keep that in mind. And that process starts right now. And I've said it the last couple of weeks, and we need to do our part to try to make that happen, or else we're going to be frustrated again in about 6 more months.
Well, hopefully, and it was talked about in hour number 1 and a little bit in hour number 2 of doing our part from a, keeping yourself masked up, being safe, practice safety. Doing that, at least that's what you can do to control. If you can't control anybody else, you can control yourself and your immediate family and loved ones. So it'll be interesting to see going forward how everything works out, but at least there's a plan in place. And you talked about fall 2021. I told you privately, and I've said it publicly, that's kind of where I was looking at. But then again, that was my opinion. It wasn't a fact. The conference, they have decided their course of action. So we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. And there's
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carlos. There's another piece to this too, that I think that something that you have been preaching and cussing and fussing about for years, I think is probably more on the forefront than ever before. There's no sports revenue in terms of anticipated revenue versus what you're getting. We all know that that's come to a pause. So budgets are tight. Revenue's not coming in. And as the commissioner has said, and as our athletic director has said, Alcorn's going to roll out some fundraising initiatives here in the next few weeks. Our president, Dr. Nave's going to be a part of that as well at Alcorn. But now is the time, and you talked about this in terms of the creativity from our athletic directors to be more involved in fundraising and actually, do the fundraising and raise money and bring in money. If there's not a better time to do that, it's now. Because at this point in time, the money train has come to a stop in terms of revenue coming in, because there are no games. But yet, you're still paying coaches, yet things are still happening. You're ordering equipment. Basketball's coming up later on in the year. We hope to have football. So what you've been saying for years, Carlos, and I thought about this when the commissioner brought it up, now's the time for all of our schools. If you haven't been a contributor, if you haven't, pumped money into your school, to your alma mater, now's the time, because it's definitely needed. We don't know what the enrollment numbers are going to look like. You don't know what the housing numbers are going to look like, kids staying on campus, if that, in fact, happens at our schools. So now's the time, as they say, to step up to the plate. And I can speak for me. I haven't been doing that with my alma mater, Grambling. I've fallen way short on that. But now's the time for us to really come together and support our schools, because we need it now more than ever. Because you don't know when, and you even said, and it's been reported, Roman Banks has said it's going to take years for Southern to kind of get back on the financial track. And I'm sure for other schools it's going to take some time as well, especially if this pandemic drags on, we don't have a vaccine, and things continue to come to a screeching halt. It's going to take years to get back on track. And now's the time to really, bolster the financial coffers of our schools.
Yeah, Coach Banks said in an article that was produced this week, they said it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time, and now more than ever, you need the alumni and supporters to chip in financially where you can. Listeners just text me, Black Media Matters. In Black Media, we trust. I mean, there are different platforms. We could use financial stability, relationships. We try to put out the information, facts matters, opinions matters, but it's different than facts. So all of us, and nobody can tell the story better than we can. And I'll say we. So in that light, that media you can trust, alumni, universities, they need your help right now. And I know this time is unprecedented time, but hey, 40 years from now, history will say, here's how the conference, here's how the institutions, how they survived during a pandemic. Now, Charles, 40 years from now, let's see, it's a possibility I could be here. But you get my point.
Yeah. And to that, what the commissioner said the same thing. I mean, we've been through these tough times before. We've been able to make lemonade with very few lemons. That's kind of the phrase that he threw out there to me, the comparisons. So we've been through these tough times before, and we've been able to stand tall. And he feels very confident that we'll do that again. We just have to just do our part and just hope everyone else does their part and let the chips fall where they may. Everybody's doing the best they can. The presidents, the ADs. No one's been through this before, so there's no playbook for this, even for fans. There's no playbook in terms of how to deal with this. You just take life as it goes. Be safe. This is a time in which my family usually comes down from Missouri. We canceled that about a month ago. A big family trip to Gulf Shores. Your family, my family involved. That would have been the next couple of weeks. That was canceled 3 months ago. So we're trying to be as safe as possible. We're not getting any younger. My mother's 77. She's taking care of her mother who's 99, just turned 99. So it's, you have to do these types of things. One of the things about me, you personally, I like to bowl, and there are bowling tournaments down in your area, Carlos. And there was one next week that I was going to get involved with, but your wife recommended, because Baton Rouge is kind of a hot spot, just kind of, lay low for a minute. And those are the kind of decisions we have to make on a daily basis, because it's not about you. It's about you making sure others are safe, your family's safe, your wife is safe, your daughter is safe. And just do the best that you can, social distance, mask, all the things that's been recommended to us. And if we do that, I think over time, things will get better.
Yeah. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And that's the way you have to look at it. And, this too shall pass. And whether we learn it the easy way or the hard way, it'll be up to us. But as we close out, we got a few minutes left. I kind of want to change directions quickly. What have the fans, I'll use that word, fans that you've talked to, how do they feel about who will move to the West? Dr. McClellan talked about one of the Mississippi schools. Alcorn fans, they want to stay in the East or they want to move to the West? I'm very interested in this response from you, Charles Edmond.
Well, based on the folks that I've talked to, our own people, they believe that it is going to be Alcorn. If you just look at the centrally located area, it's going to be one of the three Mississippi schools, Valley, Alcorn, or Jackson State, that's going to move to the West. Jackson's too far east to go west. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Valley might be, just about in terms of location. Valley, a little bit further north, if you look at the distance between Itabena and some of the other conference schools in the West, they're close to Grambling, they're close to Pine Bluff. But, the Houston deal obviously would be a challenge for them. Alcorn, their furthest trip would be 6 hours, and that's doable. I personally believe it's going to be Alcorn, but, that's just me saying it. The university and the conference will make their decision. Dr. McClellan's getting input from fans. We'll see. We're having a lot of fun with it. But it's going to be one of the Mississippi schools, in my own personal opinion, and based on the fans I've talked to, I think it'll be Alcorn.
I'm smiling. But, I took a little heat from some. But you can understand why. But that's all right. It's like the Alamo. 5,000 men against 150. You know you're not going to make it. But it's how you go is most important. On that note, Charles, enjoy your weekend. Be safe. We'll talk again real soon.
You guys be safe. Appreciate it.
All righty. That was Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Also want to thank Dr. Jason Cable for joining me, Dr. Travian Scott, Coach Van Pettaway. And also, last but not least, thank Dr. Michael Prince. Have a great weekend, everyone. Continued weekend. Make sure you tune in every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon Central Standard Time for the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Until next Saturday, as always, peace and God bless.